happy to be joined on the phone by Louisville Firefighter Bryce Carden. He was the young man who helped rescue the woman in the semi-truck on Friday over the bridge. Bryce, I also hear you're a UK fan, so that's even better. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you? Yes.
Baseball at Pikeville, is that right?
Yes, sir. I was at the University of Pikeville.
Well, good. All right. Well, so obviously, I mean, it's got to have been crazy for you over the last few days. I heard you were on Good Morning America this morning. When you got up Friday morning, let's go back to Friday morning. You get up Friday morning. Would you ever have imagined your last 72 hours?
No, I would not. Actually, I was joking with my wife because we have a 1.5-year-old that doesn't like to sleep too much. So I was a little tired waking up that morning. I told my wife, I said, we had been super busy here at the firehouse with just, runs and house fires and everything throughout the colder months. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I just want to eat 2 meals, work out, and relax. I said, I hope we don't make anything today. And then an hour later, we get knocked out on that, which I know at this firehouse, we're extremely busy. Our engine runs about 4,000 calls a year. In the truck company that I'm assigned to, we run 3,000 calls a year. So I know that there's never really any slow days around here, but it's fun to joke and say.
Well, that one was probably bigger than the other. So let's walk through the day. So tell me what happens when you get the call. And then, okay, I'm going to play the dumb guy because I am on this stuff, but I bet a lot of people are too. So I'd like you to walk me through it. So you get the call that something has happened. Then what goes into effect?
So we run a rescue company. We double as Engine 2, Truck 1, and Rescue 2. Well, the tough thing about this call is that Engine 2 was at a training at drill school across town. We were actually headed to Kroger because we go to the store every day. So we were all out of sorts, a little bit behind the 8 ball. But being a rescue firefighter, I know that, I always have to be ready for the call. So we got the call, initially that there's a semi hanging off the bridge. So you're kind of getting your mind right, like, okay, this might actually be something. When we get back to quarters where we grabbed our rescue truck from, I went ahead and suited up, and Captain Wren turned around and said, you're my guy. Like, get your mind right. Let's go. You're going to be going over the edge, essentially. So I'm running through a mental checklist in my head, just like, playing a game. You're running through what you need to do. All the reps kind of lead up to this. And I was just put in the situation at the right time, and with good guys around me, I was able to make it happen.
So you arrive at the scene, and then what? Explain to people how you ended up sort of dangling there. Where were you? Where did you come from?
So as you said, we arrived on scene. I was the rescue guy, and there was a lot of people tying up ropes. We used an aerial ladder, and so I get to it. They start hooking me up and raise me up and drop me down to her. I was in the hands of the guys above me, and it all comes back to trust. You gotta just like on a team, you gotta trust the guys behind you that they're gonna get it done. And they hooked me up, they dropped me down to her. I made contact with the patient, and she was just thanking God.
So let me ask you, before you get to the patient part, are you nervous? Or is this just like second nature? I mean, when you all of a sudden are dangling, and I know you're locked in, but you can look down and see that water. Like, are you nervous?
Well, I think that you know how it is. Like, when you get an adrenaline dump or anything like that, you just kind of that second nature training just takes over. We do a ton of training on this type of stuff. It's called a pick-off, the maneuver that we performed, and we've done it. I mean, in the hose tower, we've done it off of buildings. We've done a lot of training. It goes all the way back to when you first get your rope certification, and it just kind of we put it all together. It's just like I was telling a guy, I said, this is like being in the batting cage, taking 1,000 hacks, and then you get up there in the bottom of the ninth. Your team got you to the situation, you got base loaded, and you hit a grand slam. Like, that's the best analogy for it. Like, played a small piece in a big puzzle, and it all came together at the right time.
Had you ever had to rescue a person like in real life before?
I've had various stuff happen. I mean, we it happens sometimes, not all the time. But I mean, I've been a part of rescues before from house fires and stuff like that. But never anything dangling off a bridge. I've seen guys, the guys that came before me, some of my senior firefighters make rescues like this. We had one where some guys were at a tower about 300 foot up, and they dropped a guy down and grabbed him. So I'm not the first person to do this. Obviously, the first person to do it on national TV with a 18-wheeler, but guys who have came before me have definitely allowed this to happen. That I've
All right, so you get down to the truck, the truck, and you see her. I assume she is terrified. Am I right? Like, how do you maneuver that and calm her down to where you can get her?
So I've given a ton of praise to her, which it's credit where credit's due. She was a military veteran, so she had a different sense of being able to hold her emotions. I would say, like, she was calm. I could tell, obviously anybody in that situation is going to be freaked out, but I was able to talk to her and, calm her down and say, here's what I need you to do to help me. Because without her being able to move her body and do some stuff like that, then getting that harness on her makes it a whole lot more challenging, and I have to crawl farther in the truck and that type of stuff. So she was able to help me, make the successful rescue, and I had to cut her seatbelt off and do a few other things. So it all just kind of came together. She helped me, and I helped her. And then, like I've said on a few other things, she started praying. I was like, why don't you pray for both of us? Because we're both on the end of this ladder. So we were a little bit of comedic relief at that moment to be like, just pray for both of us.
So when with the picture we've seen of the two of you sort of hanging there, you're both strapped in. So on some level, like, once that happens, did you feel like, I mean, I know you didn't feel like it was over, but it's probably a little bit of a relief, right?
Yeah, it was a big relief. I mean, there was a lot of variables that were coming into play that we've been talking about that, once you get back to topside, you're safe. Once we were both on that rope together, obviously our chances of falling and stuff like that, or dying or whatever, worst case scenario, turn into a dive operation, the chances go down a little bit. So
yeah. So all right, so you come down. Then all of a sudden, when does it hit you that it was on national television, and when does the enormity of what happened actually hit you?
It didn't. I left my phone at the firehouse, and I was joking. I texted my wife and said, semi-truck over the bridge, here we go. And I left my phone actually at the firehouse whenever we were switching over to truck. And so, yeah, that's not a good way to leave it with your wife.
No, it's not a good way to leave it with your wife.
To live stream, and she's watching it, and she doesn't know that's me on the rope until about halfway through. Somebody texted her and said, hey, that's Bryce. And she was feeding our daughter actually at that time. And she said that she just was like overcame with emotion, obviously, and started freaking out. But yeah, it was a bad way to leave her, but it was funny now, looking back, since everything was successful.
Wow, that is amazing. I bet you might owe her a dinner for that one or something. Do you feel like it's interesting? It's interesting you said about her praying with you. Do you feel like you and this woman like have a bond in some ways from this?
I would say for sure. I mean, like you spoke upon. I mean, this is probably a once in a lifetime rescue, and for her to help me make it happen, and for both of us to be safe, it's definitely there's a higher power out there that was watching over us that day. I would say a lot of people have mentioned it. Like, I lost my dad 6 years ago suddenly. He wasn't sick or anything. He had a surgery that went bad, and he was the biggest diehard UK fan. He wouldn't even. I'm telling you, when I say he was a big UK fan, he wouldn't even go to bars and watch the game. He would sit at home and holler at the TV.
I've been there. Yeah. I know what that's like.
Hey, a lot. I'm in Louisville, so I got a bunch of Louisville fans around here. So he don't like. He has a bunch of buddies that are Louisville fans, but as soon as that game starts, he was not a fan of being around any of them. So he would watch it from home.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, this is true, Bryce. Since this has happened, I've had probably 4 or 5 different people reach out to me that know you from different things. And universally, every single person has talked about what a good human being you are and how there was nobody better for this. And, in a world that, like, continues to be, like, at each other's throats, this is a really kind of neat moment for everybody to celebrate. And I really, congratulate you. Also, all your teammates. You're not by yourself on it. But congratulations on what you all have done.
Yes, sir. I got to give a couple of shout-outs. I got to shout out J-Rock. I got to shout out Travis Odell, who's a firefighter with me who watches this show or listens to it. I got to shout out TJ, and then my buddy Trey Rakes, who you probably know, Junebug Rakes' son, who hit the game winner on SportsCenter a few years back.
Oh, so, yeah, that's right.
I gotta shout them out. Those are some of my boys that are longtime listeners. So it's